Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson.
Good evening and welcome to RMU-TV's special coverage of the Pennsylvania 18th Congressional District special election, brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson. I'm Sam Anthony, and alongside me is Logan Carney. And Logan, the polls closed at 8 p.m., and after the voters flocked into the polls all day, what do we know so far?
Well, Sam, thank you very much for introducing me, and we do already know some of the numbers that are just now starting to pour in. We got Conor Lamb leading the way, 57.86% of the vote, with Rick Saccone 41.57% of the vote, and little Drew Miller there, the Libertarian, with 0.49%, just 199 total votes in this one. But, you know, you see it's still pretty close, almost about a 20,000 point, but still a lot of precincts left to report, and it could be a very tight race is what it's looking out to be.
Yeah, and as the race is right now, it's very much a toss-up. But before we get into this even further, we're going to go to Reagan Check, our social media correspondent. Reagan, start us off tonight.
All right, thank you guys, and hello, my name is Reagan Check, and I will be following social media throughout the show to keep you updated on the latest posts between the three candidates. And last night, candidate Conor Lamb posted a tweet saying, "This is it. We've worked hard, we've had a lot of fun, tomorrow we vote. Let's win this." So I'd say that Conor Lamb is pretty confident that he will win this election, and so far, like you guys said, right now he is in the lead, but polls are still coming in, and Democrat Conor Lamb was 6 points over Republican Rick Saccone in a poll they did before the election. This shock came to the Republicans because President Donald Trump had won the Western Pennsylvania district by 20 points in 2016. And I'm going to send it back over the desk with Sam and Logan.
Thanks, Reagan. And now we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at this race. And a lot of experts have this race as a toss-up. So, Logan, if Rick Saccone wants to win this race and claim that seat in the 18th district, what are sort of his
As we look, we got, of course, it's a very, historically red area, very historically Republican area. The past 8 elections in terms of the Senate has gone for a Republican, so he needs to stay true to that, and then he needs to ride the support from Trump, who has been growing a lot of popularity, especially around this area with the recent tax cuts and recent meeting with North Korea that he announced a couple of days ago. And then he needs to win Allegheny County. It's the largest county here. That is the key one. Whoever wins wins Allegheny County is going to end up winning this race.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Allegheny County, because you're right. That right there is going to be the heart of it. So much of the votes in this district come from Allegheny County, and that was a county which went to Clinton during the election, one that was blue there. So if you're looking at Conor Lamb right now, that's one of those keys, is winning Allegheny County, but winning it convincingly. Because the way the predictions, the polls are looking right now, it looks like Rick Saccone will win the smaller counties in Greene, in Washington, and Westmoreland. But if he wins Allegheny County and convincingly, there's so many votes in that county that he will be able to get away with this one. Again, still going to be close. Another key is then the Trump effect there, and in terms of the fact that since Trump's been elected, his sort of shaking approval rate has shifted the vote towards a lot of Democrats that have been taking advantage of that. And to give us a little bit more of a look at how these things are unfolding live, we're going to send it over to Michael Shuley, our political correspondent, on the map. And he's going to break down our results so far on RMU-TV's own election map. Mike, what's it looking like on the map over there?
All right. Thank you, Sam. And as you can see, we got our map here. And as you can see, Conor Lamb with a 57.15% of the vote over Rick Saccone with 42.3% of the vote. Now let's check out Greene County here, all the way down at the bottom, where Rick Saccone, of course, is in the lead right there. As you can see, it is a red county for him. But Washington County looks like it is going to Conor Lamb. However, a big plus here for Rick Saccone, as he is currently, it looks like, possibly in the lead here in Allegheny County. Now we're going to toss it back to the desk to Sam and Logan.
Thank you, Mike. But now, as we move on, we're going to take a look here. We got a little bit of segment here tonight. As we're going to, throughout the special coverage, we're going to be showing how both candidates got to this moment and how they've campaigned on the trail. So we're going to start with a story on President Trump coming to Pittsburgh that is made by our very own Gage Golding.
Pennsylvania today here at H&K Equipment in Coraopolis to mainly talk about his tax reforms, but as well give his vote of confidence to Representative Rick Saccone.
I've come to the great city of Pittsburgh to stand with people, and those people are incredible workers, and to show the world that America is back and that we are coming back bigger and better and stronger.
President Donald Trump came to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to rally for State Representative Rick Saccone, who is running for Congress in this special election coming up in 2018, as well as talk about his tax reform and how it benefited Western Pennsylvania residents and businesses already.
In Pennsylvania alone, families will see a tax cut of about $11 billion just this year alone.
President Trump was proud to report that H&K will be investing $2.7 million of a capital investment back into its plants here in Coraopolis.
Apple just announced they are giving their employees tax cut bonuses worth $2,500 each. And because of our business tax reforms, Apple has just announced that they are bringing $350 billion and putting it into investment into our country. $350 billion.
Trump was excited to report that over 2.2 million jobs have been created since the election. Trump also reported that the unemployment rate is now at an 18-year low. He cites that African-American Hispanic unemployment rates are at the lowest ever recorded. President Trump did talk for about 20 to 25 minutes, mainly focusing on his tax reform, but also talked about the changes with auto manufacturers bringing their business back into the United States and how that's going to directly affect the economy here in Western Pennsylvania. Reporting from H&K Equipment in Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, Gage Golding, RMU Sentry Media.
Thank you, Gage. And, you know, it was our first stop on the campaign trail there. And, you know, Sam, you mentioned the Trump effect in your keys for Lamb. I mentioned Trump in my keys for Saccone. He's made, you know, as we saw, the first trip of two. And just how big of, you know, an impact do you think Trump has in this election?
Well, you know, Trump made not only the first trip there right at the beginning, but right days before here this past Saturday, another campaign trip there for Rick Saccone, and it really goes, you know, one of two ways. And again, we've talked about how, you know, Trump's approval rating has, you know, hurt Republicans in this district and in this area in general. But in terms of the fact that Trump's approval rating actually recently went up to one of its highest points due to his current situation with North Korea, how he's going to meet with the leaders of North Korea. It's interesting to see how that effect is going to pay off there.
Of course, and then you look back at some of the other special elections that we have, and, you know, even though about a 20% difference in terms of what we expected the outcome to be in terms of what they actually are, a lot of them always swinging in favor of, you know, the Democratic candidate. Republicans have only lost once, and that was in Alabama in the last special election a couple months ago. So really, just the Trump effect, as you said, you know, could go either way. But you know, it seems to be, as far as, you know, presidential candidates go, it seems that he's one of the most polarizing figures in terms of can swing an election either way.
Looking Forward is brought to you by Falcone's Moon Township Ford. Ford, go further.
Coming up on our show, we're going to take a look here. We're going to send it back to our map, but we're going to take a look at some of the issues that really were the key on the campaign.
That's right. We're also going to take a look at the debate breakdown roundtable, Logan. We're going to get to sit down with Professor Moretti here of Robert Morris University. He's going to give us a breakdown of, you know, really how that affected the election. And then former Vice President, Joe Biden was out campaigning with Conor this past week as he made his final push. So we're going to talk about the effect of Biden helping out Conor perhaps. All of this and more coming up on Election Night coverage. But now we have something very exciting, an exclusive sit-down interview here with Libertarian candidate Drew Miller. And Mr. Miller, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the show.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on here.
So where are you right now, Mr. Miller? Where
well,
are you?
I'm actually in the south side of Pittsburgh. I'm right outside, or actually inside of...
And so what are I want to hear so far your thoughts on this election and how things have unfolded in terms of, your campaign efforts. How do you think the results have been turning out for you so far? I know it's still early. It appears we're having some technical difficulties with Mr. Miller, but hopefully we can get him back on the phone. Again, Drew Miller, the Libertarian candidate, campaigning here, providing actually an interesting twist slogan on this election in terms of taking some votes away from either Lamb or Saccone in a race that is a toss-up. Right now, both are projected the same amount of votes because of the votes that Miller's taking away.
It's something we saw, in Utah in the presidential election with, a third-party candidate there ended up taking away a lot of votes from Hillary Clinton, and Trump ended up, winning the state, and she ended up not doing as well as everyone thought she would in that state. But eventually, we'll work to see what goes on with that phone call. Now we're going to send it to a break, and we'll be back with more special election night coverage.
Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson, Moon Township Ford, and Farmers Insurance, Steve Berger Agency. Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind, tough like a soldier on the front line, tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
Gentlemen, to the special election coverage brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson. And we have Libertarian candidate Drew Miller back on the phone. And Mr. Miller, we're sorry about these technical difficulties, but we're excited to have you on the show.
Sure, thank you so much, guys. It is a pleasure to be here.
So yeah, back to what we were talking about earlier. As the results come in, how do you feel about, how the results are coming in and your efforts here as, that third-party candidate?
Well, this is a really historical election because this is going to be the first time in 22 years that this particular district will have a third-party option to choose from. So for me, it's always been an honor to be that third-party choice.
Mr. Miller, you mentioned that it is the first time in a while that there is a third-party option to choose from. Do you think that, with you being able to run this campaign and change the way that this district is, do you think that that can set a standard for, maybe people will consider a third-party candidate more in the future and, not just this district, but other ones around, the entire country?
I would like to think so. In fact, this coming year, I think we're going to see a libertarian wave sweep across the Pennsylvania state and also across this nation. So I definitely see we're going to see more more libertarians within this race.
Mr. Miller, again, we like to apologize for the technical difficulty, and we'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your election night to come here and get on the phone with us. And have a good night.
Sure, thank you so much. Sure,
thank you.
You too. Take care. Thanks. Bye.
No.
All right. And now, Logan, we're gonna take the conversation and we're gonna talk about some of the issues that each of these candidates, were brought up during debates and on the campaign trail, and one of which has reached the forefront is gun control. With the recent tragedy in Florida, gun control became a big part of the conversation. Now, both candidates, Logan, have said that they do not support any more limits or bans on certain guns.
Yeah, which is very interesting, especially for Conor Lamb. Is a lot of Democratic policies is that gun controls is more needed, and he's taken more of a Republican stance on the topic.
And an additional topic that really has been one of the backbones of the Lamb campaign has been Social Security. His pitch is that Rick Saccone has been trying to get rid of Social Security, and his stance has been to keep Social Security. For all those seniors that have worked so hard to keep it. Is this really the right move for Lamb, who's really trying to get some of that younger audience as his voters?
It is. We saw it a lot, during the presidential election, especially in the Democratic race with, Hillary Clinton and really the whole thing. The other name's escaping me, but it was something we saw, especially there with, healthcare becoming free healthcare. Something that President Obama, tried to push with, what Republicans call Obamacare, and really, decision with Social Security and really on all those topics is something that's, very important.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, these issues are very important, and again, we're gonna see how this continues to unfold. Results still coming in, but right now, Conor Lamb still with the edge, 53.64% ahead of Rick Saccone. Still a lot of time, but in the meantime, Michael Shuley now is sitting down with a special guest, Dr. Anthony Moretti, professor at Robert Morris University. Dr. Moretti, you take it away here, Michael Shuley.
All right, thank you so much, Sam, but an even bigger thank you to you, Dr. Moretti. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Oh, this is election night. It's always fun. It is always fun.
Absolutely. Now, did you get a chance to vote in this election?
I did, and I was joking with friends of mine earlier today that should I vote, should I not? And people who know me know that I can sometimes be a little snarky. Boy, my Facebook page was lit up. It was like, are you kidding, right? It's like, yes, I'm going to vote. It's okay.
What was the atmosphere like at the polling station today?
My wife and I went middle of the afternoon, and typically where we are and where we live, you may see one person, two people. We were fourth in line at the time. The parking lot where we vote, again, middle of the afternoon, you expect it to be empty. A lot of people there. We were roughly 215 and 216 in our precinct, if I remember right, which, again, for late in the afternoon and a non-presidential year is particularly high. I'm not surprised at the turnout, and I think that suggests, again, this might not be as quick a decision for the in terms of results as we might have expected.
All right, now, Dr. Moretti, what do you think this election tonight says about Donald Trump's presidency so far?
I think there's a tendency, especially when there's only one result or one election, to make a big deal out of it. And I think the thing we have to keep in mind is this. Whatever happens tonight, a Lamb win, a Saccone win, it is not going to change the overall scope of what the House of Representatives is like. It's probably not going to slow down the Donald Trump effort in 2018. However, if this begins or continues a trend of Democratic victories, then we can begin to say, okay, November of 2018 is going to be a little dicier for Republicans. Don't take this one election and magnify it into something big. Put it into one bigger piece of a puzzle, and let's see where it falls out.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Moretti. Now we're going to send it back to the desk to Sam and Logan.
Thanks, Mike. And we're going to continue with the road to here. We already showed you President Trump coming to Pittsburgh. Now we're going to show you a story about his Vice President, Mike Pence, also coming to Pittsburgh to the campaign.
It is great to be back in the Keystone State. Before I get started, allow me to bring greetings from the man Pennsylvania voted to make the 45th President of the United States of America.
Vice President Mike Pence left Washington, D.C. early Friday morning with his sights set on Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for the second presidential trip in only 15 days. Pence spoke to about 300 people at the Bethel Park Community Center, where he showed his support for Rick Saccone, the Republican nominee running for Congress in this year's special election on March 13th. The vice president's speech mainly talked about the reports of the nation's unemployment rate hitting the lowest in 17 years, the administration's work to fight off ISIS, a plan to build a wall between the United States-Mexico border, as well as President Trump's tax plan to help save the working man money. The vice president's administration did hint that President Donald Trump will be visiting the Pittsburgh area again before the March 13th election between Conor and Rick Saccone. Following Vice President Mike Pence's speech here at the Bethel Park Community Center, he traveled to the Heinz History Center in the Strip District neighborhood of Pittsburgh for his Tax Cuts Put American First speech. That was his third and final stop in his tour here in Pittsburgh. Reporting from the Bethel Park Community Center in Bethel Park, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Gage Golding, RMU Sentry Media.
And welcome back here. And Logan, you know, again, some real star power coming out for Rick Saccone here on the election trail. You saw President Trump earlier, and now Mike Pence coming out campaigning for him later in that week. You know, again, really one of the stories behind this has been the backing of the Republican Party really helping Rick Saccone, you know, stay competitive in this race despite a lot of momentum from Conor Lamb. What's the significance of having guys like Trump and Mike Pence in helping him out?
Well, you know, as we talked about earlier, it's extremely significant. You know, as you said, it could hurt him in favor of the Trump effect, you know, that you brought up. But, you know, my opinion is it could help him as, you know, a lot of, you know, the opinion polls around Trump, especially in this area, you know, he's gone up since, you know, with the tax cuts from the Republican base that is based in this county that has swung Republican the past 8 elections.
Looking Forward is brought to you by Falcone's Moon Township Ford. Ford, go further.
And now we're going to take a look as we look forwards, I should say, sponsored by Ford, as we got Libertarian candidate Drew Miller. We're going to talk about him. We have a roundtable on Tim Murphy, and we got the RMU College Republicans and Democrats coming in.
Lots of exciting things coming up here on this special election coverage. You're not going to want to go away, but we're going to have former Vice President Joe Biden again. Lots of exciting things.
Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson.
No doubt you're going places, young lady.
Thank you. And thank you for the interview as well. I can imagine it was the last thing that you wanted to do after such a long campaign meeting.
You really are a very intelligent young woman. You're very smooth.
You're very smooth yourself.
You have no idea.
Every Monday and Friday, RMU Live brings you the best in news from Robert Morris University and around the Pittsburgh region every week. Our RMU Live news team gathers the biggest and best news stories and delivers them right to you at home. So tune in to RMU Live at 1 p.m. on Mondays and 12 noon on Friday right here on RMU-TV on Channel 98, as well as live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D, tough.
Put some mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And once again, we are taking a look at the map. And as you can see here, it's starting to fill in red here. And take a look here. Rick Saccone has closed the gap a little bit on Conor Lamb, and it is starting to get really tight here. 47.13% for Saccone and Lamb 52.26%. But as you can see right here, Allegheny County is blue in favor for Lamb, which is huge for the Democratic candidate. And now we have a little piece about Drew Miller. We already talked to him on the phone tonight, but a lot of people maybe didn't know about the third-party candidate coming into this election. So now let's take a little look at his journey.
You may have never heard of the name Drew Miller before. Drew never expected you to. But what Miller does expect is for people to vote for change, and more importantly, what they believe in.
The Republicans and the Democrats have failed you. And you keep electing Republicans and Democrats, and that's done no good for you.
Miller is a third-party Libertarian candidate running against Republican Rick Saccone and Democrat Conor Lamb in the March 13th Congressional Special Election for the 18th District. Miller sat down with RMU-TV to talk about his visions, the impact he wants to bring, as well as the hardships he has faced as a third-party candidate.
It's extremely difficult because, so for example, I have a real job during the day. I'm an oil and gas attorney, and so I have to go to that job, and then I'm trying to do interviews and talking to students either in the morning or when I leave my job at night. And sometimes I'll go during my lunch break to go on a couple of interviews. But I don't have a staff that works full-time for me because I can't afford it. In fact, I've made so little money that I didn't even have to contact the FEC yet, because you don't have to contact the FEC until you reach a $5,000 threshold, and I still have not yet raised $5,000. To begin with, what I want to do is legalize marijuana for recreational purposes on a national level, on a federal level.
Although Miller does realize he does have a slim chance of pulling out a victory, he is more focused on the movement he can start.
To the special election coverage brought to you by the Chick-fil-A at Robinson. Now we're going to send it over to the desk to Logan Carney and Sam Anthony, as well as Dr. Moretti, who has ventured over to the desk. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. And you know what? We couldn't get enough of Dr. Moretti, so we brought him back up here. We wanted to get a chance to talk to him. Dr. Moretti, thank you so much for coming on.
This is always a fun night. It really is. And it's the fourth time that I've been part of this since I've been here. And every time I see the energy in the students, the energy in making the production as great as it can be, this is really a lot of fun for someone like me.
Well, perfect. And you know what? We bring you on here because you know so much about this stuff. So I want to get your thoughts on Tim Murphy, all right? Because this is where it all started. It was the marital affair that ended up with him resigning. And Tim Murphy was a powerhouse in, he ran unopposed in 2016 and 2014. So him stepping down was a big opening for the Democratic Party. How important is it for the Democrats to win this race?
I think there's always a tendency to take one race and make it, this big, when in reality it's probably about this big. Saying that, though, symbolism matters in almost anything, sports, politics, you name it. That sense of we're doing better than we should, or the opponent's doing worse than he or she should. So I think as a result, take tonight, no matter which party wins, but especially if the Democrats win, or if Conor Lamb wins, and say, well, wait a minute. Yes, it's an important victory. Yes, it's one more Democratic voice in the House. But remember that this 18th district is going to get all jumbled up as a result of redistricting anyway. But more importantly, again, it's one election. The House is 435 seats. This is not electing a president. This is electing one member of Congress. So it's important, yes. Maybe more so symbolism than anything else.
I just wanted to ask you another question. It's something that we talked about, throughout the show, the Trump effect kind of, and how, he's really, as of late, he's gone more, approval ratings have gone up a little bit, but, of course, we saw in other special elections. But, before that, we're going to have to talk to Mike Schuley, who is with another professor here at Robert Morris. Mike, who's with you?
All right, thank you, Logan. We are here with Dr. Fanning. Dr. Fanning, thank you so much for being here tonight.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to start you off with the same question I asked Dr. Moretti. Were you able to vote today?
I wasn't, because I'm not actually in the Pennsylvania 18th, although come November I will be in the brand new Pennsylvania 17th.
All right, so hypothetically, if you were able to vote, what do you think, or are you satisfied with the three candidates rather that you had to choose from today?
I actually would be. I think in many ways Mr. Miller sort of rounds out a nice collection of the different candidates that were available. Mr. Saccone is, in my view, a pretty good mirror for the current Republican Party in Southwest Pennsylvania, as is Mr. Lamb for the Democrats.
Are you surprised how close this race was?
Not at all. In fact, if I'm surprised at all, I'm surprised that it is close. This is a district, I'm sure people have made this point before, that was designed to be pretty heavily Republican. I know the president won this district by 20 points back in 2016. So the fact that it is close is actually kind of surprising in the other direction. But given expectations, everyone thought it would be a very close night.
All right. Well, that's about all we have time for right now. Thank you so much, Dr. Fanning. And now we are going to toss it over to Reagan Check for a look at what's going on with the social media aspect. Reagan?
Thank you, Mike. And President Donald Trump has been a big supporter of Republican Rick Saccone. And he tweets, heading to Newton Township, Pennsylvania.
And unfortunately there, Reagan, we're going to get back to her later on the mic there, but, still a lot going on here, and we're going to take a look forward right here at what's going on.
All right, well, Looking Forward was brought to you by Falcone's Moon Township Ford. Ford, go further.
We'd like to apologize for a little bit of the technical difficulties, but coming up is really we got more coming up. We got, of course, more Conor Lamb, as he's currently still leading this election, with 52% and about 6% over Rick Saccone. And Sam, what else do we have coming up?
And again, if you thought we were done with Dr. Moretti, he will be coming back for more. We're going to actually talk about the debates. He's going to help break it down, see where that led one thing to the next. But again, a lot going on, so you're not going to want to go anywhere. So stay tuned for more on the special RMU-TV election night coverage.
Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson.
No doubt you're going places, young lady.
Thank you. And thank you for the interview as well. I can imagine it was the last thing that you wanted to do after such a long campaign meeting.
You really are a very intelligent young woman. You're very smooth.
You're very smooth yourself.
You have no idea.
Every Monday and Friday, RMU Live brings you the best in news from Robert Morris University and around the Pittsburgh region every week. Our RMU Live news team gathers the biggest and best news stories and delivers them right to you at home. So tune into RMU Live at 1 p.m. on Mondays and 12 noon on Friday right here on RMU-TV on Channel 98, as well as live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D, tough.
Put some mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And I am here with Samantha and Celine, who are members of the College Republicans. Guys, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
All right, now, how does this election affect college students?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the policies that were discussed on the campaign trail obviously affect everyone. I mean, every policy has its consequences, whether positive or negative. But especially for college students, we're talking about the difference between increased and decreased government regulations. So Rick Saccone is a supporter of decreasing government regulations. And as young adults, we're always asking for more freedom to make the decisions that we're capable and smart enough to make. So that's why I support Rick Saccone. Conor Lamb, on the other hand, will support increased government regulations. We're also talking about quantity and quality of jobs as well. So Conor Lamb has spoken a little bit about increasing the minimum wage, which is bad news in economic policy. This leads to unemployment, it leads to higher prices, lots of bad consequences with that. But Rick Saccone supports small businesses, which will ultimately be better for college students.
All right, now briefly, how does the college Republicans, how do you guys help with a, or do you guys work with the Republicans for like a race like this?
Oh, absolutely. We work with multiple campaigns currently, actually. We petitioned for Rick Saccone. We went door knocking with him and his wife, actually. And we are currently, I think, working on an additional 3 campaigns for smaller scale officials, but still officials that matter for local areas.
All right, thank you guys so much for coming here tonight. We really appreciate it. And now we're going to send it back to the desk with Sam and Logan.
Thanks, Mike. And now we're going to continue our road on the campaign with the story here about the Democratic nominee, Conor Lamb. Once again, here's Gage Golding with more.
For those of you who remember, can you believe that I have been making a living now for over 47 years doing this? God bless America.
John Bowser Bowman from the 1970s and 80s rock and roll band Sha Na Na was in Carnegie, Pennsylvania at the Conor Lamb campaign headquarters, where he spoke on behalf and gave his word of approval to Conor Lamb, who is running in this year's special election on March 13th for the 18th Congressional District.
So I can report that for 2015 and 2016, Congressman Murphy's record on senior issues, according to the Alliance for Retired Americans, his score was a great big 0.
Lamb spoke to about 15 supporters at his campaign headquarters on February 16th, where he focused mainly on health care and senior citizens' Social Security. Lamb did comment in depth about his plan for senior citizens' health care in an interview with RMU-TV.
I mean, people just want basic things like for us to keep our promises. And when it comes to Medicare for our seniors, our people have been paying into that for a really long time, and they expect it to be there for them because they worked hard their whole lives, and we told them that we'll take care of you in your old age, and they built this country along the way. And so my generation, it's time for us to step up and lead now, and we can do that first by taking care of our seniors.
Lamb also touched on the acts of terror that took place on Valentine's Day in Parkland, Florida.
No parent should have to worry about the safety of their kids when they're in school. We need to make that just the starting ground of this discussion, because too many people are going through thoughts in the last few days of dropping off their kids in the morning and not knowing if they're going to be there to pick them up at the end of the day. It's not right. We need better health care and better mental health care. When people see warning signs in the community, a lot of times they don't know what to do when they perceive those because our system doesn't make it easy enough to get people into mental health treatment.
Although this event was mainly catered towards senior citizens and what he can do to offer them, we asked Conor Lamb what he can do for college students and young people that are going to be hitting the polls on March 13th. Here's what he had to say.
We need to tackle the problem of student debt. I personally have a lot of college student debt, law school debt. A lot of people do. We've told people their whole lives that they need to study hard and go to the best school that they can get into to be prepared for the future. That's good for our country when people do that. What's not good is the way that we make people spend their entire adult lives trying to dig out from underneath of their student loan debt.
Now, Sam, it's clear, we've been through, who the Republicans have brought in for Rick Saccone, but now we see some of the people that have been brought in for Conor Lamb, and just how big and how much of an impact does Bowser have on this election for Conor Lamb and his message?
It's not so much how important Bowser is as a person, it's what he stands for in general, which is Social Security works, which is, again, one of those big stances there. And what was really great about that entire visit there was not only did he hit on Social Security, but then you saw there at the end discussing, getting rid of student debt, which which again, you know, kind of reaches to, you know, multiple markets of voters he's trying to get to, which, you know, as small as of a visit that was, with about 15 people there at that rally, it felt like he got a good message across.
Thank you for that, Sam. Now we're going to send it back in. We're going to check in with Reagan Check of the social media. What's going on with this campaign?
Thank you, guys. And Donald Trump has been posting lately. He is supporting Republican Rick Saccone. And in his one tweet, he says, heading to Moon Township, Pennsylvania, to be with a really good person, State Representative Rick Saccone, who is running for Congress. Big and happy crowd. Why not some of the best economic numbers ever? Rick will help me a lot. Also, tough on crime and border. Loves Second A and vets. And he also goes to another tweet and says that the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette just endorsed Rick Saccone for Congress. He will be much better for steel and business. Very strong on experience and what our country needs. Lamb will always vote for Pelosi and Democrats. Will raise taxes, weak on crime and border. So Donald Trump has been giving lots of reasons on why people should vote for Rick Saccone. So I'm going to send it back to the desk with Sam and Logan.
Looking Forward is brought to you by Falcone's Moon Township Ford. Ford, go further.
Thanks, Reagan. And coming up here on RMU-TV's special election coverage, brought to you by Chick-fil-A, we're going to look here at the RMU College Democrats. More guests coming down to sit down with Michael Shuley. He's got some exciting things going on. And Logan, what else do we have?
Of course, you know, we talked about the star power, really political star power that have really come in for the help support. We're going to show you who else came in with former Vice President Joe Biden. You don't want to miss it. Don't go anywhere on the PA District 18 special election coverage.
Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson, Moon Township Ford, and Farmers Insurance, Steve Berger Agency. Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson.
Hey, what do you think that sign says?
Eat more What is Well, it's the start of a word. Something like eat more cheese. Or eat more chili.
Chocolate. Eat more chocolate.
No, it's chowder.
Chimichangas.
Cheesecake.
Chewing gum. It could be chewing gum.
That's not how you spell chicken.
Chicken Minis, the Chick-fil-A chicken you love, for breakfast.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings. Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
Hello, we are back again, ladies and gentlemen, and I am here with Alexis from the College Democrats. Alexis, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, as you are involved with College Democrats, how are you guys involved with the Democratic Party?
Well, on the weekends, throughout the past couple months, we've been volunteering for the Conor Lamb campaign with the Moon Township Democratic Party, so up in the Moon area. We've gone to different events. We hosted Conor Lamb and Joe Biden last Tuesday, so we're definitely involved here within the Democratic Party. We also have a voters registration drive both in the fall as well as in the spring, so stay tuned and we'll have different updates for that.
Obviously, this race is kind of a nail-biter. Why do you think it's so tight?
I think it's so tight because this was kind of like the Democratic Party. Like, we had Tim Murphy in and then he kind of left. But then in the area within itself, it's very much red. So it's kind of like we have like our Democrats, and then we also have like this big area of Republicans who are like getting out and being more voiceful from their opinions. And after the spring election, like the 2016 election, like we can see how red this area really is.
What are your thoughts, obviously, on Democrat candidate Conor Lamb?
I think he's really passionate. He's also like super young, and like he's very appealing to like the younger audience, which is like really good. I've seen him a couple times, and I've also met him on a personal level, and he's still the same person. A lot of people, they change when they're like in the big spotlight versus when they're like kind of like intimate, and he was relatively the same. Like, his issues are very much apparent, and I don't know, I like him a lot.
All right, now actually I went out a couple weeks ago before spring break and went out and talked to some students around the Robert Morris campus here about the special election, and here's what I found out what their thoughts were on it. With the special election between Conor Lamb and Rick Saccone finally here, I decided to go out and catch up with some people around RMU to hear their thoughts on the election.
I've heard of the latter of the two names, but really until you guys came and you know, posed the question to me, I had really no idea about the special election in the first place. I feel like it is something that's important. I feel like it's something that people should go out and cast their vote for, specifically people who are involved in the area. But for me personally, I'm only here for school. I live in the Philadelphia area, so I don't know. Maybe it's terrible to say, but I feel like it doesn't pertain to me. And I don't know. I don't give it that much thought. I didn't even really realize until you said something. But now that you mentioned the names, it is kind of familiar.
I don't really know about it, but I see Conor Lamb's commercials on YouTube, and I've also seen commercials, you know, making fun of him and stuff like that. So, but from what I've seen on the commercials, it doesn't seem like he's a good guy, and he loses trials, something like that. I don't know.
I have no idea what that is or who those people are.
So would you say that this election, like, you could care less about it?
Yeah, I've never been really big into politics, so I don't know. Kind of just go with the flow, I guess.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, the special election between Conor Lamb and Rick Saccone hasn't caused too much of a buzz here on the Robert Morris campus. This has been Michael Shuley reporting for RMU-TV's special election night coverage. All right, now Alexis, after seeing that, what are your thoughts on that?
Wow. It's really sad to like see this, simply because I am a poli-sci major and I am very like involved in different political things, but it's just like we can't be students here and not know what's going on politically. Like, this election is very much like something for us as well as the people around us. Like, you have to know what's going on so that way like you can see the change that's going on within our communities. And we can't be the same people like complaining, wanting to see a difference if you aren't out there voting. Voting is one of the most important things that we can do as like Americans, and I think that it's something that especially young people get out and continue to do.
All right, thank you so much, Alexis, for being here tonight and stopping by. Thank you to everyone that's come by tonight. Now we're going to send it over to Reagan Check for a look at what's going on social media. Reagan?
Thank you, Mike. And Joe Biden even stopped at RMU on Tuesday, March 6th, to speak on behalf of Conor Lamb. He tweeted last night that he was in southwestern Pennsylvania with Conor Lamb last week. Something's changing out there. You can feel the grassroots energy, and that'll beat big money every time. Let's bring this one home. Get out and vote, Pennsylvania. And Conor Lamb also visited a farm in Pennsylvania and said thanks to Amy from Ross Farm Fibers for inviting me out to their farm yesterday. Learned a lot about issues farmers deal with in PA 18 and what government can do to help them compete. Really enjoyed meeting you all, and we'll be back out soon. And in the tweet, he was holding a lamb, and he said, yes, this is a lamb holding a lamb. So he's definitely going for an emotional feel to get more people to vote for him. And let's send it back to the desk with Sam and Logan.
Thanks, Reagan. Now we're going to continue on our road to the campaign as we send you to Conor Lamb's first appearance in Bridgefield. Here's Gage Golding with more.
Allegheny County Executive Rich Fitzgerald and the Governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, came out to Bridgeville to join 300 Conor Lamb supporters as he gave one more campaign event just weeks before the election.
Roll Call magazine and the Cook Report have changed this race from a lean Republican to a toss-up.
And I want to share with you something that I could never share at home in Baltimore without it costing me votes. And that is my dad was from Pittsburgh.
One word about my opponent, Mr. Saccone. In Harrisburg, he voted to cut public education by $860 million.
Actually, I like what he says. I like his young, fresh vitality, and this is coming from an old guy. So I'm ready to turn the reins over to the young folks that are out there that are enthusiastic and want to move us in a direction that I think we could all get behind.
But I love the fact about the drug, that, you know, to conquer the drug problems and the senior citizens, just and the children, everything. I just love everything about them.
This event in Bridgeville was a little bit funny. Conor Lamb did invite the press out, but didn't let us hook up any of our audio equipment and refused to talk to press afterwards. But the supporters here seem to be happy with what Conor Lamb had to say only weeks before that election. Reporting from Bridgeville, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Gage Golding, RMU-TV.
Thanks, Gage, for that. And now joining us once again, because we really can't get enough with you, we got Dr.
Or you're desperate, one or the other, right?
Dr. Moretti here, and now Dr. Moretti, it's a real tight race. Right now we have, you know, about 70% of the precincts reporting, 50.18% for Conor Lamb, 49.20% for Rick Saccone, and now they had a debate on KDK earlier. And do you think that kind of swayed people in one way or the other? Do you think that debate was important, looking at these numbers, which are obviously very close?
You know, I think for so many voters this year in this district, the decision was made long ago. I'm not saying debates are unimportant, but I think that for most of the voters, the decision was, especially as we started to talk about it a little bit earlier, if you wanted to make this a referendum on Donald Trump, if Donald Trump is your guy, you're going to vote for Rick Saccone. If Donald Trump is not your guy, you're probably going to vote for Conor Lamb, although I know Drew Miller is in the mix as well. So I'm not so sure this debate in and of itself moved the needle in any way. Nevertheless, that's not to say that debates are not important to at least get a chance for both candidates to be sized up by the electorate side by side.
So you talk about, you know, candidates getting a chance here, and something that, you know, I guess has been more of a debate recently, especially with, you know, Libertarian candidates in the presidential election, is that, you know, Drew Miller didn't receive an invite, even though he was actually the first candidate to register for this election. In terms of, you know, making a debate more significant and being heard, do you think it's important to get candidates like Drew Miller on the stages like KDK and WTAE?
I'll admit my bias, and that is that I think if you are a registered candidate from a legitimate party, for lack of a better word, that absolutely you should be allowed in the debate. I understand at a television studio, you know, again, we're working in one now, that space is, you know, often not ideal for you. But I think that, you know, without question, to say that somebody doesn't deserve to be on the platform simply because he or she is not likely to be an influential player in the electorate or in the decision that night, I don't think is fair to the electorate.
Well, Dr. Moretti, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us all night here.
Indeed. Well, you know, it's you guys are my 14-year-old who's still battling the flu, so you guys are all right.
Now, throughout the road of the campaign, we have shown you big political figures like President Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence coming to Pittsburgh to support Republican Rick Saccone. Well, Rick Saccone is not the only one to receive help, as Conor Lamb was joined by former Vice President Joe Biden, who came to our very own Robert Morris to support him. My colleague Sam Anthony was able to report on this such event.
I'm here at Yorktown Hall at Robert Morris University, where Conor Lamb and Joe Biden just finished speaking, as Conor Lamb is making his final push here days before the special election in the 18th District of Pennsylvania.
Let me introduce two great Americans, two great public servants, our candidate, Conor Lamb, and our former Vice President.
After being introduced by Lamb, former Vice President Biden gave his pitch as to why voters should get behind the 33-year-old candidate. Biden compared Lamb to his son, Beau, who, like Lamb, served in the U.S. military, while hitting on some of Lamb's key campaign points, such as protecting Social Security and Medicare.
And the man I'm campaigning for today, the highest compliment I can give him or anyone else, is reminds me of my son, Beau Biden. No, he does. What do these guys do? He fights for retraining and job training. These guys say, no, we can't afford it. But they can afford an obscene tax cut.
A lot of polls have this election as a toss-up going into its final days. The election takes place March 13th, so don't forget to go out and vote. This has been Sam Anthony reporting for RMU-TV.
I'm just soaking this in for a second here.
Looking Forward is brought to you by Falcone's Moon Township Ford. Ford, go further.
And looking forward here, we're going to get a social media update. Reagan Check, she'll be continuing to give us all the updates here on social media, and it's getting close here. So we're actually going to send it up to our very own newsroom as they're compiling results. Our newsroom reporter, Adam Maluso, is here giving us some updates live. Adam, what do you got for us?
Go. Okay, thank you guys. And we have a huge update here from our election center here in the Academic Media Center with about 95% of the precincts that have come in here in this election. Conor Lamb holds a 0.5% lead over Rick Saccone. That is 49.9% to 49.5%. So we're going to keep an eye on it here, see how it wraps up. We're going to go to a quick break and come back here on this RMU special election night coverage.
Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. Better than one to get on. It's very sad when I love that I can do was remember you. You know I usually say no, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
Hey, what do you think that sign says? Eat more ch. What is ch? Well, it's the start of a word. Something like eat more cheese. Or eat more chili.
Chocolate. Eat more chocolate.
No, it's chowder.
Chimichangas. Cheesecake.
Chewing gum. It could be chewing gum.
That's not how you spell chicken.
Chicken Minis, the Chick-fil-A chicken you love, for breakfast.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D, tough.
And welcome back. And to end our social media update, I wanted to talk about Drew Miller. He tweeted today, and he said, "I have the home address of Conor Lamb and Rick Saccone. If I lose the PA 18 election, I will send the winner a 6-pack of Miller High Life. I'll probably send one to the loser too." So he's definitely okay that, and he knows that he only has about 0.6 right now for voting. And he tweeted again, and he said, "I'm glad that Allegheny County put me on the bottom of the PA 18 ballot. It's always good to save the best for last." So he's definitely putting a great front on, and he's definitely a team player. And I'm going to send it back to Sam and Logan.
Thanks, Reagan. And you know what, Logan? This race is getting tight here, 95% reporting, and we still don't have a clear winner. There's not even a percentage that these two candidates are leading by.
You know, when Reagan started talking on a social media update, it was 0.03% in favor of Rick Saccone. It's now 0.07% in favor of Conor Lamb. So this race keeps going back and forth, and we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to send it to a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere, as we'll have more PA 18, District 18 special election coverage.
Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson. Every Monday and Friday, RMU Live brings you the best in news from Robert Morris University and around the Pittsburgh region every week. Our RMU Live news team gathers the biggest and best news stories and delivers them right to you at home. So tune into RMU Live at 1 p.m. on Mondays and 12 noon on Friday right here on RMU-TV on Channel 98, as well as live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Hey, what do you think that sign says? Eat more ch. What is ch? Well, it's the start of a word. Something like eat more cheese or eat more chili.
Chocolate. Eat more chocolate.
No, it's chowder.
Chimichangas. Cheesecake.
Chewing gum. It could be chewing gum.
That's not how you spell chicken.
Chicken Minis, the Chick-fil-A chicken you love, for breakfast.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings. Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough. I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this special election coverage brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson. And we're going to stay with you the entire way until we can tell you there's a winner here. So, Logan, get ready for a ride. Are you ready for this? Because right now it's tight. Give us a little bit of an idea what's going on right now.
Well, just looking at really these numbers, I mean, Allegheny it's pretty much decided for Conor Lamb. I don't know if they reported yet, but 57.82 just updated as I was talking in favor of Conor Lamb in Allegheny precinct. But then you look at the other ones, you know, the Green precinct going heavily favor in Rick Saccone, Washington really close, and Westmoreland heavily favor in Rick Saccone too, and it's all led down to the exact percentage between the votes. We got 49.75% in favor of Conor Lamb and 49.64% in Rick Saccone. And Sam, you have the numbers right in front of you too, just as I do. It was just in favor of Saccone. Before that, it was in favor of Lamb. Then it was Saccone and Lamb. It just keeps flip-flopping. It's really, that's just to show you how tight this race really is.
And you know what? They talked about it the whole way, how it was going to be a toss-up. And you saw, you know, there were predictions that went as far as, you know, Lamb winning by 10, Saccone winning by 13. And it just shows you here, you know, again, the trends are changing. Because the important thing to note still is this was a district which was 20 points in favor of Donald Trump during the 2016 presidential election back in November. And that shift and, you know, that advantage of having Conor Lamb as a more moderate Democrat has made this race basically, you know, a virtual, you know, tie. And the only difference here right now is the votes that Drew Miller's getting. You know, again, you talk about the fact that Drew Miller really, you know, has not necessarily been in this race to win it, but he could potentially affect who wins this race depending on who he's costing in terms of votes.
Yeah, you know, when we talked to Drew Miller earlier in the show, I mean, he did mention that, you know, this is like the first time about 20 years that they've had a third-party candidate on the ballot. And, you know, his 0.61% of the vote, not significant at all, but that's 1,000 people that could have voted for either Rick Saccone and Conor Lamb. And the difference between the two is 0.9%. 0.11%, sorry about that. But, you know, the difference between the two is 0.11%. Drew Miller, he may end up being, you know, a sort of a party spoiler for one of the candidates tonight.
And, you know, we're going to have to see. And right now, a lot of it is coming down to Westmoreland County and Washington County, two counties that they are, two precincts rather, that they expected to go in favor of Rick Saccone. So if you're Conor Lamb, you are a little bit concerned. But again, we're talking about the trends here, Logan. Are those trends going to go enough in favor of Conor Lamb? Conor Lamb doesn't necessarily have to win these precincts. He just has to get enough votes in them. He just has to sway enough people to get that little bit of an edge. And every vote is going to count here.
You know, it's very interesting, Sam, is that, you know, in our, you know, keys to victory, you know, we both brought up Allegheny County. Well, Allegheny County is pretty much decided. It's coming down to Westmoreland County, most likely. And the winner, whoever, you know, wins Westmoreland County, you know, at least a little bit significantly, is going to end up winning this election. And this really is, you know, as you mentioned, a very big seat, especially, you know, with how different it was whenever Trump won this county back in the presidential election. Now it's really, really close, something that we have seen a lot with the special elections this year. And now we're going to send it over to Mike Shuley, who's standing by with, you know, two of our more, I guess at this point we might as well call them regulars here on our special election show.
Absolutely, you guys. Dr. Moretti, you're here once again. Dr. Fanning back on. And guys, this one is a nail-biter.
Recount.
This is fun.
This almost inevitably is going to lead to a recount, not because Rick Saccone or Conor Lamb is going to refuse to concede at this point, but we are talking about a roughly 1,000 vote difference between the two men. Let's presume that doesn't change significantly with the remaining 25 or 30 precincts that have to come in. If you're looking at a 1,000 vote difference with roughly 205 or so thousand people who have voted, it's inevitable you're going to get a recount. If for no other reason, let's make sure you get it right. So tonight, I'm not saying that all of this was for nothing, but we might be waiting a little longer. And I don't know, if you keep everybody live here for about 2 weeks until they certify the recount.
I mean, that's
missed a few classes, right?
That 1,000 or so vote difference, we might as well call that Libertarian candidate Miller, right?
Well, you know, at this point, Miller, you know, normally the Libertarian candidate tends to siphon votes away from the Republican. So at this point, I mean, I don't know, maybe Conor Lamb's campaign needs to send him a fruit basket or something, because that may very well be the deciding factor here.
if you look at the numbers, and forgive me for staring down at a phone, I promise I'm not texting or Facebooking, all right?
Are you kidding me? I practically broken mine trying to refresh it.
There are right now 1,238 votes. There's a 1,238 vote difference between Lamb and Saccone, and Drew Miller has 1,274 votes. So if you're the most optimistic or pessimistic person, depending upon, and you say, okay, all of those votes would have gone to Rick Saccone at this point, if that were the case, he'd be up by about 30 votes. Yes, there always is a criticism of third-party candidates, but, my feeling is this. There should probably be more than more than two-party candidates, more than two parties running for each election anyway. And you know what? If the voters decide that they thought Miller was their guy, that's not a slap in the face against Rick
their
Saccone.
right.
It's their right.
And certainly, and as you see, the third-party candidate kind of maybe sticking it to the two bigger parties and kind of playing a spoiler here tonight. Now we're going to send it up to Adam Maluso in the newsroom. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. Go.
Thank you, guys. And breaking news here in our Academic Media Center, our election headquarters. The 0.5% lead by Conor Lamb, that could lead into recount territory. Per Jesse Rodriguez of NBC News, Pennsylvania does have a statewide recount policy when the candidates running for office are within 0.5% of each other. That's the way it looks like right now. Also, there are only 6 precincts left to be called in Allegheny County. If it stays the way it's been for most of the night, it looks like that could be a victory for Conor Lamb. We're going to send it back down to the desk now, guys. Very interesting to be sure.
As the tweets are rolling in while we're waiting for the last 4% of the votes to come in, people are tweeting that they're so excited and scared. One girl even posted that she feels nauseous and she doesn't even live in PA. It's such an intense election, and watching the tweets roll in, I myself am just ready to get the results. And I'm going to send it back to the desk with Logan and Sam.
Thanks, Reagan. And again, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. 96% of all votes are in, and Greene County is almost 100% in. They're finalizing those votes. Allegheny County, Westmoreland, 97% of their votes, and then Washington County, 90% of their votes. It's coming down to those final votes. And again, let's take a chance to talk about maybe some of those key topics that really got us there. And one that maybe is a reason why this race is so even is that we're gonna have this even play on gun control, but we're actually going to take a break from that because we just found out we have Drew Miller back on the line here to talk about more of what's going on. And Drew, Mr. Miller, thank you so much for coming back to us here on live election coverage.
Sure, you're very welcome, guys. As always, it is a pleasure to be back on your show.
And Mr. Miller, it's very interesting here as these results come in, and what are your thoughts? Because you're the small amount of votes that you are getting are making a huge impact on this race, and I just want to get your thoughts on how everything's unfolding so far.
No, I completely agree. In fact, 2 weeks ago I was having an interview with WTAE, and they asked me, what type of an impact are you going to have on your race? And I told them, I am absolutely going to be the spoiler for one of these candidates because the race was too close. I knew it was going to be, basically a 50-50 race. I was going to take votes away from one of these other candidates. That is happening now. And I think we're sending a very clear message to the rest of the nation that the liberty movement is real and that we need to be taken seriously.
Now, Mr. Miller, once again, this is my colleague Sam already thanks you, but once again, thank you for joining us. I just wanted to ask, what for you personally, what is the next step in your career politically?
I haven't really decided. I wanted to take a look at tonight's numbers and see, if it would be worth going on and running in November. I haven't rolled that out yet, especially since that the district I'm living in now will be the current 18th district, and in fact, whoever wins tonight, Conor Lamb or Rick Saccone, will be carved out of that particular new 18th district. So it could be interesting.
And you know, Mr. Miller, you know, we talk about your career in particular, but again, you know, your impact on this race could be something that when, you know, election season comes back again in November, people are talking about, you know, how that Libertarian, the third party candidate, can affect, you know, the results here. So really, you know, I want to hear more about, you know, after this, if, you know, if this stays the way it is and that, you know, that small percentage of the vote you're getting really impacts the election, what is the future for the Libertarian Party? What's the future for third parties in general?
I think right now we're going to see a new wave of Libertarian candidates, very highly qualified candidates, get onto the ballot. You guys might not know, but as of 2 years ago, the Libertarian candidates need to get something like 20,000 or 30,000 signatures to get on a statewide ballot, whereas the Republicans and Democrats only need 2,500 signatures. Well, the Libertarian Party sued the state, and we won, and the state said that, yes, this was unconstitutional, and you need to be put on a level playing field. And so now I think we're going to see more Libertarian candidates on future ballots.
Now, Mr. Miller, now you mentioned you want to see, you're probably going to see more Libertarian candidates on the ballots, but you know, one thing that you unfortunately weren't included in, you know, earlier in this election season was the debate that was on KDKA, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on, do you think that, you know, in the future third-party candidates will be included in some of these debates, and do you think that will play a significant role in at least, you know, getting your party's name out there and possibly getting some of these candidates, maybe even yourself, elected?
I believe so, yeah. I was very upset that I wasn't included in those debates, especially the one that was sponsored by the League of Women Voters, because usually they've been on the side of the third-party candidates and trying to help them get exposure. But I think that in the future, you know, we are going to see more third parties in these debates. I think that had I been included in these debates, it would be a much even closer race than it is now. I think I might even have, you know, 5 or 10% of the vote if I was included in these debates, just because I had been telling people I'm the most qualified candidate on the ballot. I'm the only one of these candidates that has both a legal background and experience at the legislative branch of government. Neither of these candidates can say that.
Now, Mr. Miller, you know, as everything's unfolding here, I guess the last question I have for you is, if there was anything you could change about the way that you ran your campaign, and, you know, because again, you discussed it in, you know, video we had earlier of really, you know, you had to work a day job and, you know, still trying to fundraise, and it really kind of limited what you were able to do. Is there anything that you would have changed about the way you went through the campaign process?
You know, I don't know if there's anything that would have changed. I think I maybe would have delegated more. I think I tried to take on too much responsibility when I shouldn't have. But I think that really I'm calling on the Libertarian Party to try to help out its candidates a little bit more. I didn't think I received as much support as I wish I would have gotten from the Libertarian Party. They came through at the end, but I think it would have been nice to have them there at the beginning.
All right, well, Mr. Miller, we appreciate, again, you coming in and joining us, and you know, we wish you luck in your future endeavors.
Great, thank you so much for having me on.
And we're going to go to a quick break here, but don't go away. Again, results still coming in here. So stay tuned for more election night coverage here on RMU-TV.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Put some mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. Better than one scared of.
Hey, what do you think that sign says? Eat more ch. What is ch? Well, it's the start of a word. Something like eat more cheese. Or eat more chili.
Chocolate. Eat more chocolate.
No, it's chowder. Chimichangas.
Cheesecake.
Chewing gum. It could be chewing gum.
That's not how you spell chicken.
Chicken Minis, the Chick-fil-A chicken you love, for breakfast.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings. Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
Welcome back to tonight's special election coverage brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson. Now we are back with Samantha and Celine. And guys, it is a nail biter.
It certainly is. And I'm not looking at it at the current moment, but the state law dictates that if it's within 0.5%, you know, the candidate competition, recount is an obligation. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Now, you guys are obviously Republicans. Would it be fair for me to assume that you are pro Saccone?
Yes.
Currently, Conor Lamb is in the lead with this, even though we are heading towards recount. He's currently in the lead. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the DNC was really strategic in picking him. He's not your traditional establishmentarian as a Democrat. He's fairly pro-Second Amendment, like Saccone is. He is a former, or he is a veteran, so he has that personal connection and that, you know, empathic ability with our veteran population in Pennsylvania. So I think he's not a stark, you know, left side of the spectrum that will take people aback and appear unappealing.
Now, with him being, would it be fair to say, or Conor Lamb, that is, kind of in the middle, not really a far left Democrat, fairly towards the middle, do you think this could possibly be an olive branch across between Republicans and Democrats?
I wouldn't necessarily say that Conor Lamb is a moderate candidate. I mean, his views on pro-life and pro-choice are far to the left of even our U.S. Senator Bob Casey. So I don't think he's necessarily a moderate, but I do hope that it is a step forward, reaching across the aisle, working on more bipartisan issues. I think that's so important.
So you don't think, or you're kind of still on the fence a little bit on whether or not he'll help pass President Trump's agenda?
Are we talking about Conor Lamb?
Or before Trump's agenda, rather. Still Lamb.
I don't think Conor Lamb will support Donald Trump.
Do not think so.
I think he has spoken out against some of the Democratic Party leaders, but going in as a freshman congressman, he's not going to stand up against them. He's going to vote with them, he's going to stand with them, or rather sit with them. So yeah, I don't see him supporting our president.
Why do you think, as of now, Rick Saccone is not in the lead? And I mean, we are heading towards a recount, and anything can happen from there. But obviously, Saccone is a little bit behind. Why do you think he hasn't really run away with this area?
I mean, I think initially it'd be safe to state that the Republican Party, at least in the District 18 point of view, has a little bit of a taint since Tim Murphy's scandal. He was that sitting party, and Rick Saccone, unfortunately, could be, minorly guilty by association. So I think that could definitely be an aspect of why.
Now, what are your thoughts on Libertarian candidate Drew Miller, who's really kind of playing a spoiler in this whole race tonight?
It's been interesting to see for sure. I mean, we haven't seen much of a campaign effort from the Libertarian candidate, not surprisingly. However, it's refreshing to see a third party being involved in our political system.
So would you say this is, although he's kind of hurting your man Rick Saccone a little bit here, would you say it's still encouraging that the Libertarian Party is picking up a little bit of steam?
I think absolutely. The key grievance within our political climate right now is partisanship, and how far left or far right people are, and how adamant they are about, and how aggressive they can be, when all we really need is civil discussion to implement the olive branch you were mentioning prior. So.
All right, thank you guys so much for coming back on again today. Once again, Samantha and Celine. And now we're going to send it over to Reagan Check for a look at what's going on social media. Reagan?
All right, thank you, Mike. And I just wanted to talk about one of the popular things that have been tweeted. Conor Lamb took his grandma to vote, and there was lots of pictures of him helping his grandma. And that definitely started a stir of tweets, and ABC News posted a tweet that says, Conor Lamb supporter tells ABC, listen, I'm an old guy. I'm ready to turn it over to young, vibrant guys that answer questions, have great ideas. We had our time. And another tweeter also said that don't ever let someone tell you that your vote doesn't matter, because it definitely is a close election, and hopefully we will know soon, because it's at 98%. So I'm going to send it back to the desk with Logan and Sam.
Thanks, Reagan. And we got a lot of votes coming in right now, Logan. Everywhere is almost 100%, and to give us more on this incredibly tight race as we're getting towards those final numbers, we're going to go up to the newsroom with Adam Maluso. Adam, give us some sense of what's going on.
Go. Thank you, guys, and again, another huge update here in our Academic Media Center, our election night headquarters. Conor Lamb now only up by 0.3% over Rick Saccone. We can give you an update on Westmoreland County based on the New York Times map. There was nothing really showing on their map in Westmoreland, but 99% of the precincts for Westmoreland County are in. That looks to be firmly in Saccone territory for Westmoreland, but it looks like it's going to be down to the wire, pretty much irrelevant here, as we look like we're going to be heading towards a recount. Now, the one thing I did want to touch on is Conor Lamb. Not like most Democrats that you've seen in the news, he is more of a moderate, conservative type of Democrat, which is something that you don't see often, from leaders such as Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he is able to serve the people of Western PA if he ends up getting elected based off of this recount that is pretty much, I would say, bound to happen at some point. So we're going to send it back down to the desk here. Really getting hot here in the election HQ here, guys. Looks like we're heading for a recount.
Thanks, Adam. Now, this really, election is, it's just one election. As we had Dr. Moretti on here earlier, and he said, it's just one election, but it has, kind of blown up, as really all of the special elections have done in the, the President Trump era, have just blown up to these national stories and these big stories that a lot of people are saying, could, influence the entire country, even if it's just, one county, one county, and a couple precincts in a small Western Pennsylvania town. And
it's a crazy, because it's not even just people going out and paying attention more. It's people going out and voting more. Again, a lot of those Democratic Party members who didn't necessarily go out during the presidential elections feel a little bit more motivated after, such a, I guess you could still say, a surprising result in the 2016 presidential election. And you can see that in the just amount of, following that all these elections have, in, I guess you could say, the Trump era. And again, not only that, but you have these, really tight races that even make it even more intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you looked at some of them, the one that really sticks out to mind, the recent, the Alabama one that really, I think, was decided about 2 percentage points, in which the Republican candidate didn't even concede until a couple weeks after. This one, as Mike Shuley said earlier, is most likely heading to a recount in the end. And, Sam, what are the implications, of a recount, and, how this election thing could be, dragged out, past, not just today, but even, for a week or so.
Well, we just talked about it, that national coverage, all of a sudden, you again see, and I think, it's as much as, the 18th District of Pennsylvania isn't representative of the entire country, it shows you that, again, how much of, there's this parity right now in terms of, this partisanship, as a better word, in terms of, how differentiated everyone is in terms of, these results and these votes. And the fact that we're going to a recount kind of gives way to the trend of, is this stuff we're going to see in the future? And again, there's 8 more months until November, till, election season comes back again, but this will be a conversation. And in terms of, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, that momentum, because again, this coming down to a recount, this coming so close, a tight win like this could mean a lot of momentum for the party.
I would like to clarify right before we send it to a quick commercial break that, the recount rules here in Pennsylvania, and as we've said throughout the show, 0.50% or 0.5% rather, is the necessary number if it's between for a recount to be happening required by the state. Right now, the vote totals for 49.86% for Conor and 49.53% for Rick Saccone. So it looks like it is going to head to a recount, but we're going to head to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to have more things to talk about as our special election night coverage continues. As we got, a little bit more going on here as this race is just getting too close to call.
Tonight's special election coverage is brought to you by the Chick-fil-A in Robinson, Moon Township Ford, and Farmers Insurance, Steve Berger Agency.
No doubt you're going places, young lady.
Thank you. And thank you for the interview as well. I can imagine it was the last thing that you wanted to do after such a long campaign meeting.
You really are a very intelligent young woman. You're very smooth.
You're very smooth yourself.
You have no idea.
Every Monday and Friday, RMU Live brings you the best in news from Robert Morris University and around the Pittsburgh region every week. Our RMU Live news team gathers the biggest and best news stories and delivers them right to you at home. So tune in to RMU Live at 1 p.m. on Mondays and 12 noon on Friday right here on RMU-TV on Channel 98, as well as live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Put some mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
Hey,
What do you think that sign says? Eat more ch. What is ch? Well, it's the start of a word. Something like eat more cheese. Or eat more chili.
Chocolate. Eat more chocolate.
No, it's chowder. Chimichangas.
Cheesecake.
Chewing gum. It could be chewing gum.
That's not how you spell chicken.
Chicken Minis, the Chick-fil-A chicken you love, for breakfast.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings. Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
One of the more common tweets tonight during this election is the blue wave. Because Conor Lamb seems to be dominating this election, even though it's just neck and neck. He just seems to be just a little bit more ahead. So lots of people are talking about the blue wave, and it's the Democrats taking over. And they're saying this because in 2016, Trump won by 20 points. So it's definitely different. It's not what the Republicans were expecting, and as the polls are still coming in, it's shocking, and everyone just keeps waiting for the results to come in. So I'm going to send it back to Sam and Logan.
Thanks, Reagan. And now, before we send it over to Mike Shuley, who's still standing by with a couple of our college Republicans, I'm gonna just talk about some of the things that this election really is some significant things. Now, there's only 12 precincts that have left to have been reported. 581 of 593 of the precincts have sent in their results, which means since it's pretty much even in about 0.30%, 0.3% is. 0.3% is really, left in between the two of them. It's most likely going to be heading to a recount, something that we've talked about. And even, our guys upstairs and some of our guys down here have mentioned they're not going to be counting the absentee ballots till tomorrow. So even tomorrow, this election will probably not even be decided tonight and could end up being decided tomorrow. Now we're going to send it over to Mike Shuley, who is standing by with a couple of our college Republicans who have really, braved with us throughout the whole night as this special election extends, even more, and still too close to call.
Absolutely, Logan, and we are here once again with Samantha and Celine. Now, guys, it's obviously close, and we are all students here at Robert Morris University. And now, the piece we saw earlier about me going out, I talked to several RMU students, and none of them really had a clue about that this special election was even happening. Now, what are your thoughts on the student body really not caring?
Sad, frankly. I think indifference is a very dangerous thing. A lot of the mistakes we've made throughout history is not standing up for, either side of what you believe in, and we're a very complaining generation. Not to insult ourselves, but we are, and the audacity millennials have to complain when they're not even taking the one opportunity they have to create a situation in which they don't have to complain about is pretty disappointing, actually. It's embarrassing.
What are your thoughts on the whole on the lack of knowledge from the Robert Morris students?
Absolutely. I completely agree with Celine. If you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain, in my opinion. It's so easy to educate yourself. You could go online. It takes 3 minutes to read about the issues. Most people already have opinions on them. It takes so little time to inform yourself on what each candidate stands for. There's commercials on TV all the time. There's really no excuse for not knowing an election is occurring and not knowing what the candidates stand for.
Yeah, honestly, it's really difficult with especially how brutal the campaign ads are.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right, so thank you guys. Now we're going to hand it back over to the desk to Logan and Sam. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, thanks, Mike. And you know, Logan, we're going to take a closer look here at just, you know, these counties and how they compare to what happened in the 2016 election. And, you know, again, the counties are going in the same direction in terms of who's winning them, because Trump won Westmoreland, he won Washington, and he won Greene County. And Hillary Clinton won Allegheny County. That was really her big push in Pennsylvania. Ultimately, it wasn't enough to give her that edge, and Trump ended up winning, you know, a key swing state in Pennsylvania. In this case, it's all the same. Lamb is currently up by about 14,000 votes in Allegheny County as those final votes are coming in. And, you know, again, as that Westmoreland, Washington, and Greene County, again, are following the way that, you know, people projected a little bit more of a swing in Washington and Greene County towards Conor Lamb, which is why this race is so close. But you know what? Now that we're talking about, you know, how this is a swing and how close it is, I think it's important to talk about also, you know, the implications of, you know, winners and losers here, because if whoever loses is most likely going to run again, but it's going to be a different district because that congressional map is changing. That congressional map is going to change. It's going to be, you know, approved, and it looks like Conor Lamb is most likely going to run the 14th district. Now, Logan, can you give us a little bit more on how important that is, that these changes? Which one does that affect more, do you think, Lamb or Saccone?
I think it's going to affect Lamb more because, you know, Lamb, you know, this district has, you know, been predominantly a red district, you know, for the past, you know, 8 elections in terms of, you know, congressional. When they redo it, in which, you know, we heard Drew Miller bring this up when we interviewed him on the phone about 30 minutes ago, you know, when he was on here. He brought up just how, you know, important it is when they're redrawing the maps and everything like that, and that he'll still be running for the 18th district, even though the other 2 are going to be different. And as we go into reporting now, as our producers in our ear telling us that, you know, there's 7,000 absentee ballots that are going to be counted tomorrow, with the margin being about 600 between the 2 of them.
And that's the thing, Logan, is it's just so close. And, you know, typically, you know, these absentee ballots would be almost an afterthought. You know, you have a winner basically decided, and what that does is you go through it and then you ultimately decide. And again, that's why we have these, you know, proceedings in place for recounts when it's so close like this, because you have all those absentee ballots. You have that stuff that can really kind of shift it which way. And as it goes right now, and if it, you know, unless we see some sort of drastic shift here in the final, you know, 2% of votes, they're going to have to go to a recount tomorrow.
Yeah, and you know, Sam, it's, you know, you just go back to the saying, you know, that every vote counts. In this election, it's especially true with, you know, about 0.3% separating the 2 of them. 7,000 absentee ballots will be counted tomorrow and will probably decide the election in one way or the other. Is even though Conor Lamb is winning right now, it doesn't appear that he, you know, is a lock to win the whole thing. And we're going to send it to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll be back with more special election coverage.
Every Monday and Friday, RMU Live brings you the best in news from Robert Morris University and around the Pittsburgh region every week. Our RMU Live news team gathers the biggest and best news stories and delivers them right to you at home. So tune into RMU Live at 1 p.m. on Mondays and 12 noon on Friday, right here on RMU-TV on channel 98, as well as live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Hey, what do you think that sign says? Eat more ch. What is ch? Well, it's the start of a word. Something like eat more cheese or eat more chili.
Chocolate. Eat more chocolate.
No, it's chowder.
Chimichangas. Cheesecake.
Chewing gum. It could be chewing gum. That's not how you spell chicken.
Chicken Minis, the Chick-fil-A chicken you love, for breakfast.
Get a Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings. Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Hey, what do you think that sign says? Eat more ch. What is ch? Well, it's the start of a word. Something like eat more cheese. Or eat more chili.
Chocolate. Eat more chocolate.
No, it's chowder. Chimichangas.
Cheesecake.
Chewing gum. It could be chewing gum. That's not how you spell chicken.
Chicken Minis, the Chick-fil-A chicken you love, for breakfast.
Get a Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings. Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
All right, I'm going to go back to Drew Miller because out of all three candidates, he's the only one that has seemed to be keeping up with social media. And one of his tweets that he posted was of a screenshot of the polls coming in, and he put a hashtag saying spoiler. So he's definitely being a great team player, and he seems okay with it, at least what we're seeing from his social media. And from a tweet, he says, "We're only a few hours away from me being the most hated man in America, hashtag PA18. And honestly, as these are coming through, he's kind of making me laugh a little because it's stressful. And I know that only having 0.6 votes obviously can't be it has to be hard. And we're going to send it over back to Mike Sholey.
All right, thank you, Reagan. And we are once again back with Samantha and Celine from the College Republicans here at Robert Morris University. Now, what are your guys' thoughts on the 7,000 absentee ballots that are still left to be counted?
You know, absentee ballots are something that candidates can absolutely control. I think it's going to come down to which candidate was able to really identify those voters that would be absent during the election. I know candidates often go door to door asking, will you be here? If not, they will supply them an absentee ballot. It's really going to come down to how much work they put into it, and we're hoping that the absentee ballots pull for Rick Saccone. Now, do you think that they are going to go, or is this just a hope and prayer at this point? Well, you know, I don't have an accurate prediction about that, but I was able to go door knocking with Rick Saccone himself. He's an incredible man, and I know that we were able to provide a lot of absent voters with absentee ballots, so fingers crossed.
Now, in addition to that, according to the New York Times, Washington County still has 7% of the vote that has not been counted yet. So do you think that that could help possibly swing the vote in favor of Rick Saccone here, even though it's still close?
Well, we're aware that Saccone campaigned particularly hard in that area, so it would certainly be well-deserved from a political standpoint. Obviously, we're hoping it does help him out, but again, it's kind of a difficult estimation to make.
All right, well, thank you guys so much, and we're going to send it back over to the desk with Sam Anthony and Logan Carney. Take it away, you guys.
Thanks, Mike. And now, Sam, as we get, approaching, the end of, really the end of the night, as we might go into tomorrow, is what it looks like. What are your thoughts on just, what do you think is going to just happen, to whoever loses this election? I mean, we already know that Drew Miller is going to unfortunately lose, but we don't know who else is going to lose in this election. So who do you think will, what do you think will happen to the loser if it is either Saccone or Conor Lamb?
Well, it's probably the most interesting what if in this scenario is what's going to happen to Conor Lamb. The 33-year-old lawyer, former Marine, said he won't comment on his future plans, saying, "I made a promise to the people of the 18th District. If he were to run again, he would most likely have to run in the 14th District because that is where he would be on the new congressional map. He could run again in the 18th, but traditionally it's a lot harder to win in a district in which you don't live, you're not a resident there. So that provides a new challenge for, a Democrat who's running, in a very tight race. And I know, again, that these maps are going to, change and all that stuff, but Lamb definitely needs this one more than Saccone. Saccone plans to run in the 14th District back in November if he does not win, and that's going to include much of the 18th, which, again, traditionally very in favor of Republicans, and that's also going to include the traditionally red Fayette County.
And some of their opponents, if they run in those districts, is what it's looking up to be. Gina Sorelli, who is the Westmoreland County Commissioner, she tried to run in this election, the 18th district, but unfortunately, she lost to Conor Lamb. But now it looks like that she's going to try and run in the 14th district against Rick Saccone. Now in the 17th district, it looks like if that is what Conor Lamb decides to run again in the 17th district, it will be against Keith Rufus, and those are two completely different races for them, almost completely different districts too. As you mentioned, one Conor Lamb that would be entering, a lot more historically red, but again, this one, was very far red, and he's doing pretty good tonight. At least it turns out some of the results continue to pour in.
Yeah, and again, I really think that the most important thing there is, who's going to have a tougher time getting into office if they don't win in this special election. And, again, it really seemed like, the perfect, wave for Conor Lamb, because, again, nobody was even running against Tim Murphy ultimately up until the scandal, which, forced him to resign. And not only did that, hurt the image of the party in general, which gave him the opening, but then you have, the Trump effect, which we talked about. And, you lose this, and, Conor Lamb almost effectively goes away until, November. The odds of him coming back and winning are, it's possible, but it's less likely.
Yeah, and Sam, we're going to send it, one last time. We're going to send it over to Mike Shuley, who is still standing by with a couple of our college Republicans here. And
hanging tight.
Mike, what more do you have to ask for them?
All right, Samantha, Celine, obviously things are tight. Obviously you're pulling for Rick Saccone, but right now with Conor Lamb in the lead, even though there are those absentee ballots still out there, what is your gut feeling on how this race is, or the outcome of this race?
Well, I am going to be optimistic. I think the absentee ballots are going to pull in favor of Rick Saccone, and I think he's going to come out as our next congressman.
And your thoughts?
I'm going to be the group's pessimist and say most likely Lamb is going to pull in that victory.
And why do you think that is for Conor Lamb? Why do you think he's going to be Why do you feel that he will be victorious in this election?
Just looking at the numbers now, although they are close, they are remaining pretty constant. They're not changing much. Obviously, there are more votes to come in. You know, from a strategic standpoint, it just seems as though Lamb has the upper hand with the way he campaigned and what he stands for and the appeal that he carries.
All right, now a little bit earlier, you were talking about going door to door with Rick Saccone. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Absolutely. So the college Republicans work really closely with the Republican Committee of Allegheny County, and they organize a lot of grassroots campaign efforts with us. So I was able to actually go out and door knock with some students from Duquesne, as well as Rick Saccone and his beautiful wife. It was a great time. It was awesome to see him just running up and down the streets, so eager to talk to potential voters, even ones with Conor Lamb signs in their yards. He would walk up to their door and try to sway their vote. So it was really great.
All right, thank you guys so much. But before we leave here, one last question. Are you enjoying the night, all the action?
Yes, it's an adrenaline rush.
This is why people should be more involved in politics. You know, it's so fun to see all your hard work pay off, and you know, just to watch the results come in.
All right, thank you guys once again so much, and we're going to head to a quick commercial break here, but we will be right back.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Get to Moon Township Ford for a brand new F-150 truck for up to $10,000 in total savings.
I'm talking tough.
Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
F-O-R-D tough.
Put some mini in your morning. Get the feeling of Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But I don't want to get on. It's very sad no more love that I could do was remember you. You know I usually say no, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
Welcome back to RMU-TV's special election night coverage, and we've been with you this entire way as the results have been, you know, rolling in here, and we are almost at a deadlock even result here. And that's interesting, Logan, and one of our final thoughts here is going to be, you know, Trump won this district by 20 points, and the fact that it's now basically at, you know, dead even, what does that say about the Trump presidency?
Well, I don't know how much it says about, you know, the Trump presidency. I think it says more about the country as a whole. I think, you know, the country now is you know, even though, you know, Republicans control every branch of the government, or every house in the government, my apologies, it says more about, you know, that this country really doesn't lean, you know, one way anymore. It's not significantly Democrat is what it looks like. It's not significantly Republican. Because in all of these, you know, special elections, they've all been really, really close. You know, and the Republicans have still won more, but a lot of them have happened, you know, in places that the Republicans have used to win significantly. So I don't think, I think it says more about the state of the nation, that, you know, the nation is a lot more divided, than how it was, in November. Even though the campaign itself was, just was built on the division, but ended up, of course, being a Republican landslide victory in November, and now everything's going to be coming down to the wire. And this election, we keep talking about the craziness. Right now, 49.72% for Conor Lamb, 49.68% for Rick Saccone, the exact figures, and of course 0.60% for Drew Miller. But the two with the division between it, it's really just so close, and that's something that has happened in just about every single race, special election since then. This would be the 7th one since him. 5-1 Republicans, but all of them settling within about 7 points different between the two of them.
Yeah, you know what, Logan? The thing I would say is this is such an incredible time to get involved with politics and democracy, because this again is a symbol of the fact that every vote counts. Those people that didn't go out and vote today, the missed vote, or that one person who ended up deciding to go vote could make the difference. And what this does is it really builds to a very exciting election season in November. And on that note, it's gonna go to a recount here. We cannot name you a winner tonight, but thank you so much for joining us, and we'd like to thank Chick-fil-A in Robinson, Moon Ford, and all of our other sponsors that came out and really helped make this happen, and Farmers Insurance. How can I forget Farmers Insurance? So thank you so much for tuning in to our special election night.
Of course, we'd like to thank you to Mike Schuller, who joined us. We'd like to thank you to Reagan Check, of course, the college Republicans, the college Democrats, Dr. Moretti, and all of our other guests that we've had on tonight, Drew Miller. And we'd like to thank you to everyone upstairs that made this possible. And we'd like to see you, and we'll see you later, and have a good night.